And this is Tennessee Talks with Kip Capley. How are you doing, Chris?
I am doing great, Lawrence. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. I miss my buddy Kip, but I think Kip's already up there in Nashville right now getting prepared for the session.
The new session actually starts tomorrow, but he went on up. He's working hard for the constituents of the District 71. And we want to give a shout out to Kip, but we also want to give a shout out to Strikers.
Man, give a shout out to Strikers. I need to get in there and get me a meal. It's been about a week or two since I've been in there. Miss going to Strikers. I mean, I always get a good meal and always get great service there.
Amen to that. But man, we got a lot of stuff going on. There's already some committee meetings taking place in Nashville, and got one that's I got some bad news, and even from Republicans. And I want to tell you.
You mean the reprobate Republicans? You know, with the R by that name? Or?
I don't know if it's that I would put every one of them in there, because one of them's been on this show before, Rusty Grills.
Yeah.
And I consider Rusty a very, very stout conservative.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you what it's about. Let me get it pulled up here on my phone. And you know how these darn iPhones are. This newer one, you can't pull them up until, if you don't touch them for a little bit, they'll go out on you.
So you're basically talking about the amendments on the Rules Committee for recording each vote?
Right. I think and I may be wrong, Kip could correct me, and I was going to ask him about this, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to make it in this evening. But the Tennessee House Select Committee on Rules and that would be basically what it is. You're right, the Rules Committee. But they refer to it as the Tennessee House Select Committee on Rules. Failed the people by rejecting a roll call voting in committees. So what that means, if you got a budget committee or you've got a TDOT committee or a TWRA committee, and they don't actually work that way, but we do have a legislative committee, criminal justice committee. When they have a committee meeting, and let's say this committee has 11 members, 8 being Republican, 3 Democrat, let's say you got 12, 14 members on a committee, they would do actually a roll call vote, and their vote would be recorded to where you would know how they are voting for the people of the great state of Tennessee. And my understanding, unless I'm wrong, that every one of them, there was hush, there was crickets when they asked who was in favor. Crickets.
Really?
Crickets. And I'm shocked because, like I said, I think a lot of Rusty Grills, and Rusty would be a great person for me to get the answers from, but I haven't talked to nobody. So I can tell you I'm trying to look at this committee. We know the 3 Democrats are an automatic no, and I know 2 of the Democrats that are on there, and they're no on everything. And like I tell everybody, Democrats stick together.
Well, they stick together, but I would like to get Rusty back on the program if possible, because I'm going to tell you something. I believe that government should be held accountable to the people.
We the people.
And I believe that I personally would like every roll call to be voted on, and we know how everyone stands. And to me, I think that brings out the light to government, and it doesn't hide anything. And you know, a lot of times people they take and they look at their government, and we look at our government as being something that is nefarious and that we don't trust. But when you put things out there and you show everybody what you are thinking and how you are voting, then I think that gives more accountability for our government in what they do.
Right, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was just looking at this real quick to try to see who may be the Democrat. I know that 2 of them it's on there, and I can't figure out which one's the third one, but I know that William Lamberth, and you understand the position that Mr. Lamberth holds as the leader of the Republican leadership. He chairs that committee, and Jeremy Faison, who is the caucus chair
Right.
of leadership, is also on that committee. So 2 important members are in leadership on that committee. And so it was nothing like, I understand it was crickets on yes and the no votes, they overrode. And from the information I've got, which is great, reliable information, there were no votes to take roll call votes. I mean, no yes votes, excuse me.
Yeah, no yes votes. Well, again, that's the reason I think I personally want to know how each representative votes. I'm tired of having to.
Well, the word
explain.
is no transparency.
Thank you.
It's no transparency.
And transparency is important.
That's right. I'm pushing for that in the SEC. Matter of fact, I'm pushing for a special called session of the State Executive Committee of the state, and we handle the rules for the Republican Party in the state.
You know, that brings me up a point. I'm going to go totally different from here, but I want to get your opinion on this. Have you been following any of the news that's happening in Michigan right now, where they actually got rid of the chair of the Republican Party in Michigan?
The state Republican chair?
Yeah, the state Republican chair.
Which, folks, where you will know he's comparing that, our state Republican chair is Scott Golden in the great state of Tennessee, and in Alabama, I know it's John Wall.
Right, but this particular lady, she is actually refusing to step down, even though she's been voted out.
How can you refuse to step down when you've been voted out by the leadership of the Republican Party?
That's the reason I was asking you. Did you know anything about this?
No, I have not been following it. I will be honest with you. I've been incognito since about Thursday of last week.
Right. And to me, I can't understand that either. I guess she just feels like she's entitled to that position and that it's her position. But, you know, we have to be held accountable. And one of the reasons that they took her out is because when she took over the Republican Party of Michigan, they were in the black. They had plenty of money. And she only took over like 8 months ago, and the Republican Party in Michigan is already $500,000 in debt.
Sounds like she's one of those there trans Republicans.
Have no idea what she is or who she is. I haven't even followed it.
Well, I'm just calling a spade a spade. You know, from what you're telling me.
Yeah.
So anyway, she must be a trans Republican, and it sounds like they may ought to audit the books.
Well, I'm sure that they're going to be doing that. I want to say this. You know, we brought up about William Lamberth and what he has done with the roll call votes and about not having the transparency. And I'm just going to say what it is, you know, because when I see something that I disagree with, I'm going to say I disagree, and that's the reason we should have debates. And that's the reason, you know, I would more than be willing to have Mr. Lamberth on the show to explain his position. You know, why are we not showing each and every individual vote? But I will put up this. William Lamberth proposed this earlier today, to make a death penalty for rape cases of minors in Tennessee.
Thank you.
I agree.
I agree with that 100%.
I agree with that 150%. That should be something that should be considered. No child should be harmed or damaged. I don't care if it's a rape of a child, but you know what? Here's the scary part, is that our children's minds in this country, their minds are being raped and they're being taken over by these people that are pushing an agenda and not an education. And that, to me, is important about getting on this school choice.
You're speaking about this woke agenda that's being pushed.
Yes. Listen, we have taken it too far when we are putting drag queens in school to have drag queen story hour.
Or even in a public library.
I want to know what you are thinking for that. let's take it a step side. Let's take out the sodomite agenda on this. Could you picture, Chris, having strip club dancers doing story hours? Can you picture that?
No, it's
what is the difference? Can you explain the difference?
There's no difference, because if you got a man dressed up like a woman,
Provocative,
yeah, showing cleavage, got a short skirt on, sick, and like you say, a retrobate mind.
Yes.
That's what they are. Who in their right mind would allow this in their school system, and let alone even in their public libraries in their county? They are sick-minded folks out there that will let this happen, and they should be charged with child neglect. That is some form of child neglect and or abuse.
See, I would take it a step further. I'd say child endangerment.
Or child endangerment. I don't disagree with that.
You are messing with a child's mind.
That's right.
And there are a lot of broken adults even that are mine and your age that are walking around because of trauma that happened to them as children. And let's face it, Chris, me and you grew up in an era that is so much more safer for children than the era that our children and grandchildren
today
are growing up today.
That's correct. I talked to a gentleman last week from Houston, Texas. His two children are both attending UT Southern over in Pulaski. Mm-hmm. And he was just sharing with me, and we're close, same age. He's about 4 years younger than I. He was telling me that even in Houston, where he lived out in the suburbs, up towards, you can picture up towards George Washington International, north of the airport up there, North Houston, that you used to leave your doors unlocked. You had a gun. You went to school with a gun on your gun rack. Went hunting after school. Same thing we did here. But you see how quickly all this changes because of these agendas that certain folks, and it ain't the folks that's right, it's the folks that's on the left, are pushing. And this is the reason we're in these deep-seated, sick-minded issues today, because we have let these type of communistic, retrobate mind thinkers take over our way of doing business. And it goes a whole lot further than just this situation, and I will touch on that in just a few minutes.
So here's the thing, it's kind of funny that you bring this up. With when I was growing up and in school, and most everybody else, let's say that are the ages of 40 and over, we never had to worry about a school shooting.
You might ought to carry that 45 and up.
Maybe, yeah.
That's right. We didn't.
But like you said, students had shotguns and hunting rifles on the racks. And
carried a pocket knife.
Absolutely carried a pocket knife. Where were the school shootings then? There were no school shootings. You know what? I remember seeing this bumper sticker. And this bumper sticker, I saw this at least 15 years ago. And it rings even more true today than it does back then. But the bumper sticker said on there, "God, why do you allow school shootings?" And then it has God's answer, and it says, "Because I'm no longer allowed in school." And that is what we have done. We took out prayer out of the school system.
Let an atheist.
In 1963. And you know what's funny? I'm going to tell you what's funny. Then in 73, we have abortion that was legalized at that point.
Roe v. Wade.
The killing of innocent children. But do you know what is inherently funny is both of the people that brought these lawsuits, one to get prayer out of school and the Roe versus Wade case, they both have come out and said that they were used and they were wrong, and they wish they never had done it. That right there, the main people bringing up the lawsuits as they have gotten older and they've reflected on what they have done, they've regretted it.
Well, you think about it. You're touching on Roe v. Wade, and everybody was up in arms, especially all the Democrats and the leadership at the White House, the Biden administration and his cronies. That was the right thing to do, was overturn it, and it put it back to the states.
Yes.
Because the reason you see me reaching and going fishing for my pocket Constitution, you know I always got a Constitution on me somewhere. And folks, I've said if you need one, call the radio station. I will actually have one here free. It will not cost you a penny. But the states are in charge of the federal government. And a lot of people don't know that. We have let the federal government shove crap down our throat, and where we've gone astray is these weak-kneed or weak, no spineless, no backbone governors. On every executive order that has been issued by a president, they are wrong. You hear me. I don't care which president, even President Trump, as much as we love him, did executive orders. They were wrong. It is the state's individual rights, okay? It is not the federal government runs the states. The states run the federal government because the states created the federal government. And it was supposed to be limited. And there is so much bureaucracy, government overreach. You want to see how to get this national debt down? It's like I told Marsha Blackburn when she was at a meeting in Giles County. I waited till last. Save the best for last.
Right.
And I said, Senator, if you would get rid of every agency in Washington, D.C., it starts with 3 alpha characters, 3 letters, and put those people back in the workforce, we would solve unemployment and take their salaries and all that bureaucracy, and you could pay off your national debt.
You know, the crazy part about that is I will tell you this. The salaries of all these people is not what's contributing to the national debt. What is contributing more than anything, as you touched on, is all the bureaucracy that's going on and all of these little pet projects and these monies that are being spent that are that are not needed. You know, the Constitution that you have there is 25 pages, 30 pages long.
Yes, sir.
It would take someone with a high school education no more than 30 minutes to read the Constitution. But yet no one, I shouldn't say no one, but most people don't even realize what their rights are inside the Constitution because, let's face it, the Constitution is not being taught in school. I graduated high school in 1990, and I'm a history buff. I enjoyed history. But I'm going to tell you something. The Constitution was not taught to me, not even in civics class where we taught the Constitution. It was glossed over. It was talked about as a.
What'd y'all do? Watch movies?
No, we didn't even watch movies. I mean, it was just. We mainly, I'll tell you what was funny. I mean, we touched on other things that really weren't as important. I remember, we touched upon the Louisiana Purchase. We talked about the Alaska Folly when we bought Alaska, from Russia. I mean, we talked about Lewis and Clark expeditions or studied these things.
Which that has a Tennessee connection.
It absolutely has a Tennessee connection. But my whole point is we did not get in and study the Constitution even 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. We were not being taught these things. And, yes, we had geography. Yes, we had to know all of our state's capitals. But you know what? All of that stuff, I mean, let's face it, just because you are given knowledge doesn't mean you're given wisdom. And knowledge and wisdom are two different things. And yes, it's great to have knowledge. You do not want to look at your history and repeat the negative parts of your history. And when people do not understand or know their history, then history is going to repeat itself.
Amen.
Okay? But what we're not taught in schools, even back then, is we were not taught discernment and we were not taught wisdom. And I'm going to tell you something, and I tell this to my kids all the time. The best education that you can give yourself is not the education that is spoon-fed to you or it's shoved down your throat in school systems. The best education you can give yourself is self-education.
Self-educate.
The education that you go out and you commit and you do yourself. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I do not use hardly anything that I learned in high school or even when I went to college. None of it. I mean, most of the things that I use, whether it's math, whether it's writing, whether it's English, it's not common sense. It's all stuff I was taught in elementary school.
The basics. The basics.
It's the basics. That's the only thing that I got out of school. Now, maybe somebody got other things out of school, and I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you what I experienced myself, is I did not get those things from school that has helped me to become an adult and navigate life.
Well, let me tell you something that we did in the 8th grade down at Minor Hill.
Okay.
In the 8th grade, we had a great teacher that treated us just like our grandmother. You know, I can remember when we would go eat in the cafeteria, all the food was home cooked. Right. They did a great job, seasoned just like with fatback and salt and pepper. It didn't hurt us. And these folks took care of you. And that's why if you got in trouble at school, you got in trouble when you got home because everybody knew your family.
Yes, absolutely.
But in the 8th grade, we had a lady from the Boatenham community that when schools consolidated, we used to have 8 high schools, believe it or not, in Giles County.
Wow.
And they consolidated them down to 2. Now, we were promised a 3rd one in the south end of the county. Until this date, we've never got it.
You know, I think that right there is bad for communities.
The communities die.
The communities die, and I think that having that many high schools, some people may say, well, that's terrible. That's a good thing. You know, we consolidated. We saved money. Maybe so, but you actually kind of destroyed community and belonging.
Yeah, you destroyed the community.
Yes.
I'm being very honest, and if it makes somebody mad, got the same britches to get glad in. But we wrote in the 8th grade a history. There's a book, and I've still got that book. History of Anthony Hill and Minor Hill. You know, the two last skirmishes, I started to say major, 2 last skirmishes of the Civil War of the Tennessee campaign were the Battle of Anthony Hill and the Battle of Sugar Creek down at Minor Hill before the campaign exited the great state of Tennessee. And we wrote a book about the schoolhouse at Anthony Hill and the schoolhouse in the Shores community. All these little communities had schoolhouses, and some of them are still standing today. I know that they've done a great job down at Stella preserving that 2-room schoolhouse. Shores has preserved theirs. I think it's either 2 or 4-room schoolhouse. But a lot of these communities still have theirs, even in the smaller communities when you get outside the geographic of the larger communities like Leoma or Loretta, you know. But even the smaller communities, maybe like over here, Gandy or Busby, they had little 1 or 2 and 3-room schoolhouses. But the communities were truly communities back then. But in the 8th grade, we wrote this book, and it intrigued me into history. And in the 11th grade at Giles County High School, I had one of the best history teachers probably in the state of Tennessee. He's deceased now, but that gentleman, you knew your history from the front of that cover until the back of that cover. He covered it page by page, and truly taught history, which I have said in the first grade, we need to start teaching these little first graders. Let's let everybody get acclimated in kindergarten, but in first grade, they need to be taught two things. They need to say that state pledge every morning. I mean, the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance, right. And they need to say the state pledge. Is just as important to me as it is to the U.S. Pledge. They need to know both of them word for word.
And I would take it even a step further. First thing, even before the pledge, should be prayer.
Well, prayer, yes, but talking about history, I'm staying focused on history, and yes, and it used to be the principal of that school, and we were talking about this yesterday over dinner or lunch, about how in the school system, all of in my growing up, all the principals, and I'm talking about, there wasn't vice principals to begin with or assistant principals. There was a principal of that school, and as I grew up, 90% were male. We had 10%, and I remember, you didn't cross that woman, was a lady by the name of Miss Ethel Hope. She never married, and she was the principal of a school. That's the only female in Giles County I remember as a principal when I grew up. But then later on, we get more women into the role of being a principal. Then we add these, they called them at one time vice principal. Then they came up with this fancy adjective, assistant principal, and so forth and so on. And now I think some schools have 2 to 3 assistant principals.
Well, I mean, when I grew up, I'm just going to tell you where I was at. But my graduating class was like 800 or 900 people in my graduating class, even. So
that's pretty good size school.
Yeah, it was a big school.
Is that Polk County, Florida?
Yeah, it's called Kathleen High School. That's where I graduated from. As a matter of fact, if people follow football my senior year, and this young man was his sophomore year. It was a guy by the name of Ray Lewis.
He's Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, he's probably one of the best linebackers of all time. And he was actually, when I was a senior, he was a sophomore.
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, we were a very big school. But I can tell you this, not in high school, but in middle school, our principal would get on each morning and would do a prayer to start our school. And he was actually a deacon in his church, and but we would start our day off with the pledge.
Everybody do the prayer first, and then the pledge.
That's correct.
That's the way we used to do.
God always comes first.
Right. That's the way we used to do.
I mean, we have this law that nothing is above the American flag. Okay, you can't fly another flag above the American flag, but God does come first for the American flag. But you know what? That's kind of changed here recently, though, with the American flag. And it's really kind of started off with Obama. Obama, he put the LGBTQ flag above the American flag. He lighted up the White House with the LGBTQ flag.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're gonna decide. There's places in this country right now where the Palestine flag is flying higher than the American flag.
What sick-minded folks?
I mean, not only sick, it's
idiots.
It is demonic and it is deranged. And here's the demonic and the deranged part. It's not the people that do it. It's the people that have allowed it to happen, which is our legislative and our government.
Well, I will say in the great state of Tennessee, and you may already know this, there's a bill to ban the LGBTQ plus flag.
Right.
And, man, it's making national news.
Well, you know what? Good. You know what?
Great.
Good. Okay? Because I don't have a heterosexual flag flying.
That's right.
And I got news for you. That rainbow is God's rainbow.
For peace.
That was given as a promise to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you are not going to desecrate what God made good and what God made as a promise. That flag does not belong. You are spitting in the face of God, and if you agree with that flag and you think that flag is something, I got news for you. You will pay for that. Not in this lifetime, but the next when you stand before God himself.
That's correct. You'll have eternal damnation if you're not careful.
That is. Because God is not going to be mocked.
That's right.
And I'm amazed that we have not faced more judgment in this country than we already have. Well, they want to talk. I'm sorry, Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to bring up this point. Everybody wants to talk about climate change. Okay, and we're having more tornadoes, we're having more earthquakes, we're having more volcanoes, we're having more of these things happen. Well, God told us that in the end times that these things are going to happen. Okay? But I'm going to tell you, it's not called climate change.
It's called God change.
It's called God bringing judgment.
That's right.
And if you don't believe it, that's fine.
He tells you in the book of Revelations, near the end of time, you will not be able to tell the change of seasons. That's one of the signs,
Well, I will say this. I keep hearing it. They used to call it global warming.
I call it global cooling.
Well, you know what? Here's the great part. Back in the 70s, that's what they called it. They called it global cooling. We had to stop doing things with the environment because we're going to bring about a new ice age.
We were tearing up the ozone layer.
And then when that didn't come out, when the science, the quote-unquote follow the science didn't happen, well, then it became global warming. And then when that science, because things keep changing, okay, when that science didn't prove that we had global warming, now we're just calling it climate change. People, I got news for you. It's all about these people controlling us.
It's control.
The climate is going to change.
No matter what.
No matter what. It is going to change because God's in control of the climate. And you know what? If people are that arrogant to think that they can destroy what God created, I got news for you. God will not allow anything to happen that he does not want to happen. Period. End of story. So you can sit here and talk about all this climate change, global warming, global cooling, whatever the flavor of the day is. Okay, you can keep talking about this crap. And that's what it is. It is crap. You keep talking about it, but at the end, there's nothing you can do to change what is happening on the face of the earth.
Let me switch gears. It's kind of on the same subject. It's another flavor. We're going to go to strawberry now instead of chocolate or vanilla. Read an article yesterday, and it was in the Tennessean, and I don't know how many people read the Tennessean or still. I don't even know if they still print the Tennessean paper. They may do. I don't know. But anyway, they're having this at New Year's Eve. It's called Nashville's Big New Year's Bash.
Right.
And they had everything. Nashville's kind of replacing New York.
Right.
Okay. And this writer or reporter for the Tennessean, it was a female, writes that country music is racist.
Right.
I said, they caught my eye, and I read the article. And I didn't do nothing but get ticked off, okay? Because these people tried to polarize and make everything racist. And what they were saying, there's not enough females in country music.
Well, how does that have anything to do with race? That's gender.
That's a gender, but then it got into comparing the black male vocalist country music singers, and I do remember it was 0.02% of black female country music artists.
Right.
And we needed to be more diversified in Nashville. We're R&B, we're rap, we're pop culture, and and I got to thinking, man, how sick! This woman is just
how many white women rappers do we have? So is rap music racist?
Well, this is where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Don't steal my thunder yet.
I just can't stand
Have
people
you
that like that.
this rap music? You do not want your children listening to this crap. It's MF this,
I'm gonna say
MF
most
that,
music though, Chris.
and
I'm
it
just gonna be
talks.
honest.
It's so vulgar.
Yes.
It's way beyond. Country music looks like a saint, even if I got a beer in my hand. It looks like a saint compared to what this rap crap, and yes, rap crap. That's a good name for it. That they're putting out there, that they're pushing, and all we're doing is there again. Here is a writer, and I think this was her very first article with her new job with the Tennessean paper. And this is the type mess they come out with, and they polarize and try to make everything. Now they want to say that country music is racist, but then the other thing was it didn't have enough homosexuality in it. And I think you and I mentioned on the show Friday on Free Speech News, the first thing that I seen when they went to that little bit of blurping they did in New York, and when the ball dropped in New York City, the first thing those idiots, and yes, idiots in New York focused on was two men French kissing. Should have never been allowed on TV. Never been allowed on national TV.
And I'm going to take it even a step further. I mean, I don't even agree with it showing if it was a man and a woman, because those things are private and those things belong in the bedroom.
Right. And
okay?
I agree with you.
And that even goes for the homosexual. That even goes for the homosexual. My problem with the homosexual has nothing to do with what they're doing. I want to tell them that it's wrong. I want to tell them that it's a sin. Okay? But I don't want to take away any of their freedoms or rights. But here's the problem, is the homosexual is coming after my freedoms and rights because I'm not going to bow the knee to them. Well, let me tell you this right now. I will never, ever, never, ever bow the knee to anyone but Jesus Christ himself.
God Almighty.
I'm just going to tell you that right now. And if I have gone along to get along too long, it's been going on too much, because no one is speaking out about this. But it needs to be spoken out to, and it doesn't need to be shoved down our throats, because I am not shoving down my heterosexuality down their throats. That needs to be in the home, and what two consenting adults do in their home is up to them.
In their privacy is up to them.
It's up to them. But you are not going to bring this demonic, vulgar, I don't even want to, I can't even say the word on air, but you know where I'm going. I think most people listening know where I'm going with this.
If they ain't got you figured out by now, they'll never figure you out.
Well, here's the thing. You're not going to bring this out to polite society and bring it out to a Christian society. Yes, we are a Christian nation. When we no longer become a Christian nation, and Obama kind of did this, he even said we're no longer a Christian nation. Well, I disagree with you. I disagree with Obama on that. Because when we are no longer a Christian nation, Chris, I promise you this.
We're no longer a nation.
Look out.
We're no longer a nation. Ronald Reagan said that back during his presidency.
He absolutely did. But I want to bring this up though. Yes, I don't want to just pick on rap music on this. I want to pick on music as a whole. I do not listen to the radio. I cannot listen to a country music station. I can't listen to a rock and roll station. I can't listen to a rap station, R&B, whatever station it is. I just cannot listen to that music anymore because it is filled with nothing but promoting sin.
Well, I've got Sirius XM.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Mine stays, and I think it's, I turn to, it's either channel 73 or channel 77. It's the Bluegrass Network. Mm-hmm. I love listening to bluegrass. And I haven't found nothing wrong with the bluegrass music yet. except on old Rocky Top.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. That would be good. But the genre of bluegrass, it just doesn't appeal to me.
I like it. I mean, everybody's different.
Everybody's different. That's right, and that's the reason we have all these different music.
That's right.
And this is my whole point, Chris, that I'm trying to make. I don't want to single out necessarily any genre of music because most of it is bad.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, now I want to change gears.
I'm fixing to change gears too. I'm waiting. I'm sitting here in the wings.
Well, we got to discuss this. So there's a big article that has come out, and it is talking about the proliferation and the massive amount of murders and crimes in Britain committed with knives. You know, Britain has been gun control for a long time now.
A long time.
And I got news for people. Man will find a way to kill another man no matter what the instrument
regardless of the tool.
So now Britain, even though now they took away the guns, now they think they're going to take away the knives, okay? So you take away the knife. Then what are you going to take away next? The rock?
The axe?
The first, well, no, axes are in this as well.
Oh, they
and
are?
Machetes and all, yes. So what are you going to take away next? The rock? How did the very first recorded murder happen?
Cain killed Abel.
Did Cain kill Abel with a Smith & Wesson 357?
No.
Did he kill him with a knife?
With a machete? No.
What did he kill him with?
A rock.
A rock. What are you going to do? You going to outlaw rocks next? Do you see how freaking stupid you people are?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, but here, and I'm bringing this up to a point because our Democrats are already talking. They're already hoo-hawing and everything else. So we're going to take away guns in the state of Tennessee now. This is the patron state of shooting stuff. I got news for you. You're not going to take away our guns without a fight, and I'm going to tell you this, it's a fight you're not going to want. Period. End of story. Because we know how this is coming about. We have these covenant families keep pushing for gun control.
Commie mommies.
We have we have gun control. They're even coming out now and saying, well, we have gun control that everyone can agree with. You know what? Here's the only gun control I agree with. Can you hit your damn target when you point the gun and pull the trigger? That's your gun control right there.
Right.
Anything after that, there's no reason for us to make that discussion because here's the point, Chris, that I'm trying to make. Over 200 million people were murdered in the 20th century alone due to gun control that was implemented by different regimes.
Different dictators, different regimes.
And it all comes out starting as socialism and going into communism.
Communism, that is correct.
And here's what you people don't understand. Do you know what happens when the communists take control? They kill you socialists first. They don't kill people like me and Chris first because they respect people like me and Chris because we are fighting against this. They actually respect it. They do not respect people that are traitors to their own country, that they are even trying to take over. And it is not just in the 20th century alone. We can go all the way back
19th,
to the beginning.
18th, we can go back to every
15th century. We can keep going back. But see, this is where people are ignorant and they do not follow and know their history.
That's right. They do not follow, and they are doomed and gloomed to repeat the bad parts of history.
You know what? If you want to get rid of guns, okay, I will stand behind this. Everybody, including the government, gets rid of guns and no one has them. But the Second Amendment, make no mistake, had nothing to do with us going out and hunt. It has even nothing to do with the fact that we defend ourselves when we go walking the streets or anything. It is defending ourselves against a tyrannical government. Not even our own. I say any tyrannical government.
Or any, yes, not even the United States, but any government that tries to come in and overthrow us.
Any tyrannical government. That's what it's there for. Do you know why America has never been invaded? Can I tell you why America's never been invaded?
I know the answer, but go.
But even Japan, when they attacked Pearl Harbor, they could have went right in at that point into California with nothing to stop them. But the emperor of Japan said, we cannot invade the United States because behind every blade of grass, there will be an American with a gun.
They feared the gun.
Like any government. Any government. Do you hear me, people? Any government fears your ability to protect yourself from them. Now, I'm off my soapbox.
Well, this may get you back on it, but I've got two important events to talk about. I mean, we're 9 minutes away.
Fastest hour
in radio. I knew that was coming.
Yep.
But anyway, I learned something. You and I both have past in investing money. You from the investment banker side, myself, I'm more of a fixed, guaranteed individual on fixed guaranteed annuities.
So was I, Chris.
And I never really got into the mutual funds.
Yeah.
But I learned something trying to help someone out. It took a month. It's been crazy. Didn't realize since I never retired my license, they're still very active on what I can pick them up anytime and do whatever I need to do. But things have changed, and things started changing greatly with the Obama administration. Like moving money that you've set aside, it's in a fixed guaranteed instrument, whether it be an annuity or an IRA, which is a form of annuity, or CD. We can get into several different acronyms of people who have put money away in a safe environment.
Correct.
But now if you go to move that money to get a better return on interest, there's all this hoopla that was created on banks and insurance companies by guess who? The federal government.
And you know what? And I hate saying this, and it hurts my heart to say this. It all came under the Bush administration. And
it started under Obama, and then George W. Bush picked it up.
Well, no. George Bush is the one that started it.
Oh,
Obama,
Big Bush? George Herman?
No. As after 9/11. It was Obama that kept going with what George Bush had put into
his
place.
agenda he pushed.
Yeah. I just want to say it, because Obama came after Bush. So
right.
But it came underneath the guys, and they used this. They used a lot of things.
Money laundering and
all of this came under because of 9/11 and because of the Patriot Act.
That's
the
right.
Patriot Act is one of the worst things that has ever befallen on this country, and it came from a Republican administration. And whether they were, it was done nefarious or not, but it still gave the power. And the Obama administration took it and
ran with it.
And so is the Biden administration.
And the Biden administration.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It is. It's ridiculous. A lot of people don't know. And it's not the role of government to know your business. This is another way of tracking and all this different paperwork it's having to be filled out. It just makes you want to just throw in the towel. But I'm not. I'm a fighter. And Senator Hensley got the brunt of this Friday when I picked up the phone and said, what in the heck is going on? He said, well, Chris, it didn't only affect the insurance business, it has affected the banking business as well. I said, this is not the role of federal government. It's wrong. We need to stand up. It's every ounce of fiber of freedom and liberties that you and I have that's under attack. And we got to get off our do-nothings and get up and stand up and push back. And that's what I said about these governors of our states. We've got nullification. And we're fixing to talk about that here in just a second. But that Governor Lee, you hear me loud and clear. Clean your ears out and be ready to stand up anytime.
He doesn't care. That's the problem.
We need to spank that rear end and make him care. okay? Because he taught it how Christian and what a great man he was, and a lot of them, including myself, fell for his malarkey. But he needs to stand up and push back and tell Joe Biden and his administration to go pound sand.
But he's not going to do that because he agrees with the Biden administration. I'm going to tell you something.
Well, I understand, but, we need to get, that's what we got to do. We're trying to get the truthful information out there to the people to educate them, because people going to have to stand up.
Well, see,
it takes more than you and I.
It does. The whole reason for this is that they are trying to put aside or trying to bring in the mark of the beast system.
Yeah. We're down to 4 minutes, and I want folks to mark their calendars. Number one, we got 2 great events, and guess what? The word free. You get to attend these free. Citizens for Renewing America is bringing Steve Friend. Have you heard about Steve Friend?
Yes, I have. FBI whistleblower.
That is a FBI whistleblower journey from beat cop to FBI whistleblower. We'll be in Fayetteville, Tennessee, Wednesday, January the 24th, on us Wednesday evening, starting at 6. Mark your calendars now. Again, you'll be hearing more about it on this radio station, the radio station in Pulaski. Steve Friend, former FBI agent, the FBI whistleblower, will be in Fayetteville on Wednesday, January the 24th at 6. It's at the Bank of Lincoln County, just a quarter of a block off the square there in Fayetteville on the east side. Banquet Hall, 307 College Street East. So mark that down. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out to the radio station, and we'll make sure you get the correct information. Our great friend, and he does a podcast called The Tennessee Informer, Dave Vance.
Uncle Dave.
Uncle Dave Vance. Shout out to Dave Vance. Appreciate the work you do, brother. But we've got a bill coming up in the House on nullification, and it's presented by Liberty's Whisper, Why Nullification Matters. On Saturday, February the 24th, from 10 a.m. to 12:30 in the afternoon. This event is free, and you're welcome to come, and it's going to be located at the Dynamic Ballroom and Performing Arts Center in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. If you need to know any information, we'll put it out there. You'll see a flyer that will be on WLX and WDXE's website, along with WKSR. And it's a great constitutional attorney, district judge, Chris Ann Hall from the great state of Florida. Very conservative lady, and she is going to be educating everybody on nullification. And that 10th Amendment is all of our amendments are important, but our 1st, 2nd, 10th, and 14th are very strong amendments.
So let me tell you this. Without the 10th, if our last hope for this country is the 10th Amendment without having to get into the 2nd Amendment. Our last chance of peace to save our country is going to come through the 10th Amendment and reining in federal government powers and giving them the powers that was given to them by the 10th Amendment, which they are supposed to follow.
We got less than a minute. Read that 10th Amendment real quick.
Okay. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
That's it.
That's it. And now I want to bring this, and we'll bring this to a close, Chris. And I want to get to the point about Bill Lee claiming to be a Christian. Okay? Now, I'm not saying I'm high and mighty by any means. I have a huge log in my eye as well, Chris. Okay? We all do. But I believe this. When it says in the Ten Commandments, using God's name in vain, it's not the cursing of God. It is using God's name to propel or better yourself in business deals or politics or anything else. That is the true definition right there of doing what Bill Lee has done. And I personally think, and here's the difference between me and Bill Lee in this aspect, I believe people can make their own decisions.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
And I don't want to take away anybody's freedom. Send us off, Chris.
All right, well, God bless everybody. God bless Kip Capley. God bless our state legislators. They go back into session. And God bless strikers. And shout out to strikers.
Shout out to strikers. God bless everyone. We will see you later.
Champion and Greenlight podcast host